I don't have an answer for you, Custa.
Ah.
All I can say is the more mechanical skill you have, probably the better. And that's why I'm not in the league anymore. What's up and welcome to the Overwatch League YouTube channel. I'm Reinforce and I'm here with Custa heading into the 2022 season, and we're here to talk about the tanks going into this season of the Overwatch League. Obviously the tank role, it's changed a bunch. You might have heard we're going to play on Overwatch 2 this upcoming season. So with that, we go from 2 tanks over to 1 single tank player, which is going to be a massive change. And obviously we want to highlight some of our favorite players going into this season. Custa, do you feel ready now to analyze some tank gameplay going into Overwatch 2?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, we don't really know what the tank role is going to look like at this point, right? There's the conversation of, our main tank's going to be better, our off tank's going to be better. Is there going to be a mix of the both? Because, like, another interesting thing to keep in mind as well as we go into the new era of 5v5 is everyone's starting fresh. And I'm curious to see how it works out of, do you have an advantage as a rookie coming into the game, especially as a tank player where the role has changed so much, where all of a sudden that new perspective will give them an advantage of changing the way the game is played compared to some of these veteran players who have been in the league for 3 to 4 years and they've played the same way for so long.
Anyway, we're going to highlight 5 of our most exciting tank players going into this season. So heading into it, number 1, who are we selected for number 1, Custa?
So number 1, we have Smurf, who has moved from the San Francisco Shock to the Seoul Dynasty. So this is like a really interesting pickup for the Seoul Dynasty, a team that has had, I guess we would say, tank woes over the last couple of years, trying to find someone to complement that sort of Prophet and Fitz duo, and bringing in Smurf, a 2-time champion, phenomenal player, main tank coming into the team. It's going to be interesting to see how he adjusts, especially seeing he is the only tank on this roster right now.
Yeah, so that's going to be a big shift because we haven't seen Smurf play the whole pool of main tank heroes necessarily, and that's just how it's going to be, right? When you split playtime with another fantastic main tank player, you want to maybe have Super specialized on his heroes and Smurf on his heroes, but now Smurf gets the chance to play all of the tank heroes by himself, and we'll see how he really accomplishes doing that. Now, do you have confidence that he's able to adapt some of these other main tank heroes and now also the off-tank heroes at the Seoul tank of Seoul Dynasty?
Yeah, I think that's fundamentally the issue because he split time historically on the Shock playing the main tanks. Now he is doing it all the main tanks plus also doing all the off tanks. So he's not one of those players, kind of like Super, where you've seen that flexibility on the Roadhog, on the D.Va every now and then. Smurf hasn't shown that in the Overwatch League yet. So the question is going to be, as that solo player, is he going to be able to all of a sudden pull out a D.Va or a Sigma and be able to play with these other tanks that are just some of the best in the game at those heroes? So I'm a little concerned about Smurf, but if anyone is going to not be able to show it and then perform at that level, Smurf, a 2-time champion, is definitely going to be able to do it.
Absolutely. One of the best main tanks to ever play the game in Overwatch 1. So I'm going to wrap up Smurf, I'm going to ask you one simple question here, Custa. Very simple question, very straightforward.
Super simple.
Do you think Smurf could be a role star in 2022 on the tank role?
I'm going to annoy some people here. I'm going to say no. I think Seoul Dynasty is not going to hit that peak that we're all hoping for them, and I think Smurf might struggle if the game goes towards off tanks.
Absolutely. Now, for our second player, we got Kaloush. And interestingly, a bit of a connection to Smurf, I suppose, because Kaloush comes into the league, obviously signed a couple of weeks ago, and he's replacing Super on the San Francisco Shock. Super left the San Francisco Shock in a bit of a tricky situation with no tank going into this season. So they pick up Kaloush, who has a reputation in the contender scene for having some amazing tank talents. Of course, notoriously, he's been part of a lot of different teams, but he's been part of the American Tornado team that was hugely successful, and the GOATS team that invented the GOATS composition. So we have him to thank for it. Thank you so much, Kaloush. Really appreciate that. Now, Kaloush is an off-tank player, of course, but he's a very skilled one, Custa.
Yeah, he's someone that I don't think a lot of people were expecting to be signed. He's been in and out of the scene a lot over the last couple of years, but you can't doubt his talent for the game. The question, though, for me isn't, is he a good player? It's will he be able to fill the shoes of Super? Because Super was, as we said, a highly flexible tank that was able to play a lot of different things. But on top of that, the leadership qualities that Super brought to this San Francisco Shock roster was invaluable. And every player and coach who ever worked with him agrees to that. So can Kaloush not only mechanically step up to Super, but also play that role that the San Francisco Shock with a solo tank is going to need to be able to do?
All right, Custa, that makes it 2 players we've highlighted now going into this season as tank. For our third one, we've selected another rookie, Custa, Kellen of the New York Excelsior. Can you talk a bit about Kellen?
Yeah, Kellen's a really interesting main tank prospect. We haven't had a lot of them, I feel like, come into the league in terms of rookies, and I think NYXL has done a great job of acquiring him. He is a main tank player from Talent Esports, historically also played for Element Mystic, another great Contenders Korean team. So he's very exciting because of just the sheer amount of like presence that main tank is going to be needed for the league. So if you're going to take a risk on a rookie, especially with how much NYXL shook up their roster, I think Kellen is a perfect pick for this.
Yes, I really enjoy watching Kellen play because, as you said, he was part of that Talent Esports lineup. A teammate of Kellen, of course, was Heesang, who's another very exciting talent. Heesang and Kellen, they often partnered up to play this very aggressive kind of dive style. And that's what I'm hoping to see Kellen do on this New York Excelsior roster as well, because he is going to team up with Flora, he is going to team up with Yaki, which is an amazing duo when it comes to the damage heroes. And so, of course, I want to see him dive aggressively with Yaki. So I'm hoping to see the Kellen Yaki dynamic duo this upcoming season in the Overwatch League. Now, Custa, we've been tasked with selecting 5 exciting tank players going into this season, but we just couldn't do it. Explain.
We were putting this list together and we're like, well, I feel like we should really talk about Rhino. If we're going to talk about the Los Angeles Gladiators tanks, you just can't talk about one of them, because I think the dichotomy of this duo is super important, because we have Rhino, another North American rookie tank player coming into the Los Angeles Gladiators, but he's going to be partnered with Space. And I think that is, going to be hard to see how that dynamic is going to work. So Rhino is the main tank coming into this team, and we expect him to be playing those Reinhardts, those Winstons. But then you have Space, who is so important with the cooling structure, with the off-tank heroes. How is that dynamic really going to work? And will we see both players? Is it going to be more valuable to have skill on individual heroes, or have that consistency and that flexibility from one of these players?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, because even Space, at times, he's had some flexibility issues. I don't really want to call it issues on his behalf, but he's been blessed with such good teammates that can also play the off-tank hero. So, for example, we saw Mirror play some Zarya for the Gladiators the last couple of years as well, and Space focusing a bit more on the Sigma and the Diva gameplay. And, going into Overwatch 2 and 5 versus 5, can Rhino, reasonably fill some of those heroes as well? Rhino is a former DPS player who did play some DPS in Contenders as well. Notoriously, most known for his tank gameplay. But if you have the mechanical chops to take up some of those tank heroes, whether it's Doomfist, for example, that'll be a very interesting conundrum for the LA Gladiators this season. So, leadership, or do you go for some younger mechanical skill in Rhino? That's going to be one to follow, especially because Gladiators, I mean, they're projected to be one of the top teams this season, Custa.
Yeah, it's not like where he's joining a team as a rookie, which is expected to just sort of like, oh, you just need to like really show that your own individual ability. This is a team that's fighting for a championship, and the Gladiators have that talent. They got Kevster, they picked up Arns and Paddy Pan, right? And then obviously their backline is just absolutely bloodthirsty, as Doa would say. So I think the tank line is really going to be a make or break moment for this Los Angeles Gladiators, because as you said, Space goes, swings wildly from being considered one of the best tanks to also being considered maybe one of the problems with his Gladiators. If Rhino can fill that hole and be able to pick up some of the heroes where Space might lack, I can definitely see seeing both of these heroes and Rhino making a name for himself as one of the better main tanks in the league.
Absolutely. Now, you would have thought that we would only mess up the 5 players format once. But for our 5th and final player, we've also selected another duo, Custa, and this is the tank duo of the Florida Mayhem. Now, this is interesting because it's a double rookie lineup, or well, I mean, I guess Adam's a rookie too. Partner up with someone, not necessarily when it comes to, playing alongside each other, because remember, once again, 5 versus 5 this upcoming season, but someone is the main tank coming in from Team CC, who had a lot of success in Korean Contenders.
Yeah, so this is it's a different team to the ones we've already evaluated, where there's like higher echelon, upper echelon teams. But I think the tank line, to me, is the most interesting. Someone is a prospect from Team CC, as you said, that I don't think a lot of other teams were looking at. And I think he has the ability, from what I've seen and what I've watched of him so far, is he does have that flexibility that might be ideal going into Overwatch 2. It shows that he has the mechanics to be able to play some of these other heroes and not just main tanks. And then on the other hand, we have Adam, which is an Australian player, ups to my Aussie boys, but someone who has been very talented, but it's hard to get your shot as an Australian player. And I'm curious to see how the Florida Mayhem are going to use that double tank dynamic to really get the best out of both worlds.
I feel similarly about someone coming from Team C, where I've seen VODs where he plays the Wrecking Ball with that team, where he plays the Winston, the Reinhardt on like Lijiang, Garden, or even playing Orisa at times. So this is a very flexible tank duo, and so they probably can have them specialize in different kinds of picks and then find a bit of a nice groove between the two tanks. You can have two tanks coming into the league, discuss perhaps what heroes are best on what maps, etc., and learn from each other, learn together. Now, that makes it for the tank prospects, Custa. Any last words? You're excited about these tank players? Any last words?
I think the most important thing that you should keep an eye out on as a fan is just how is the tank role going to evolve as we go into 5v5 Overwatch. How is the tank role going to adjust, and how are these players going to adjust that? Because no one knows what to expect. No one knows what's going to be good. It's going to be up in the air, and the best player will come out on top.
That makes it for the tanks. Now, we're going to do more of these episodes here on the Overwatch League YouTube channel, whether it's damage players or the support players. So make sure you subscribe, you like this video, and comment down below. Leave a comment down below. Tell us who your favorite tank is going into this season and who you are looking forward to watch. And that'll be that. Stay tuned for more amazing videos talking about the rookies and the exciting prospects of the 2022 Overwatch League season.